running over here. Left my house at 5 a.m. this morning to get here. And I was with my daughter last night. She said, where are you going, Dad? I said, I'm going up to Boston. She says, where in Boston? I don't know. She says, where are you staying? I don't know. She said, is anybody picking you up? I said, yeah. She says, who? I said, some guy, I think his name's Tommy. Do you know him? I'm not sure. And I do this every weekend. She thinks it's crazy. If you join me in a moment of silence, I'd like to open with a prayer to clear my head, if nothing else. Lord, help me to set aside everything I think I know about you. Help me to set aside everything I think I know about myself, about other people, and everything I think I know about this program of recovery. All for a new experience in you, Lord. A new experience in myself. A new experience in others. And a much needed new experience in my own recovery. Amen. I'm delighted to be here. It's good to see Glenn again. He's recorded me the last 3 weekends. 3 weeks ago, I said, you're 3 weekends together. I said, you're going to be sick of me. He says, I already am. I almost said, yeah, me too. I can't wait to hear what I'm going to talk about. Some of you may have heard these weekends before. I got to tell you, it won't be the same. It's never the same. I never know what's going to cook out, except I have my experience, and it'll cook out the way it's going to cook out. I'd like to know who's here. How many people are in your first year of absolute abstinence? Just curious, not to embarrass you. Oh, woo! Wow. You just directed me on how to go with this thing. I am very delighted you're here. Anybody here in their first 30 days? Oh, welcome. Oh, anybody in their last 30 days? See, sometimes we get a winner. We go, yeah, and I'm out of here. Screw you. Any Al-Anons here? There are. I can feel you. Somebody? Oh, okay. All right. I found out in Al-Anon why so many alcoholics end up in relationships with Al-Anon. We finally find someone who thinks about us as much as we do. What I'm going to try to talk about is my experience. This is not going to be academic, even though we're going to refer to the book a lot. I'm not here to teach anything. Academic approaches to the steps have never worked very much. The power of Alcoholics Anonymous has always been in genuine sharing of our experience. And where one of us connects with something inside of us, connects with something that someone's saying in their experience, and it motivates us to take actions in our life that we normally would never take. But that connection is vital, and I'm going to try to share my experience as honestly as I can. I am not by any means any kind of expert on anything. Truthfully, if I could be considered an expert on anything, it would be my own failure. I mean, I got that down to an art form. But I'm a guy who, from the time before I was old enough to take a legal drink, I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, and for over 6 years, almost 7, I relapsed. And in those years, I tried everything. In those years, I went to the greatest psychiatrist on the planet. In those years, I took the medications that seemed to be psychiatrically appropriate for my emotional and mental disposition. In those years, I checked out religion. I got saved and changed my life for 2 weeks. I had epiphanies in group therapy that changed my life for about a week. I went to meetings after meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I would swear to myself, because I'm so disgusted with this thing, that I'd never, ever, ever pick that stuff up again. And I always went back to it. And I hated myself for being that way. And I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop from starting. And there was a hopelessness that sunk in about that. That's why the last couple of years, it's a dramatic story that I ended up on the streets. But the real truth was, I ended up there because I just didn't care anymore. Because I'd wrung all the fun out of the party, and I don't care. So I just sought oblivion the last couple of years. And I didn't know what was wrong with me, and I couldn't stay sober. In 1978, I tried to take my own life after all these years of relapsing, because I really felt hopeless at a level, and not the kind of hopeless where you're on the streets and you're not going to get your girlfriend back and a job. Not that kind of hopeless. I don't even care about that. It's the kind of hopeless where there's no friendly direction. There's not even any friendly direction in the bottle and in drugs anymore. There's no relief anywhere on the horizon. And that is a horrible, horrible place. It's a place without hope. And I am not a suicidal guy by nature, but you put me in a trap I can't spring, where drinking has become pathetic and depressing and self-pitying. And abstinence is just so depressing and lonely, and I don't fit anywhere. And both conditions are unacceptable and intolerable. After a while, trying the best I can, I just start giving up, and suicide life starts looking like a good deal to me. And instead of I couldn't kill myself, I tried, and I'm afraid. I stood on a bridge, trying to muster up enough courage to leap off there and get this over with. And what saved my life was not the fear of dying. I'm not afraid of dying. What I'm really afraid of is I'm going to screw this suicide attempt up, and that this isn't high enough. And maybe I won't die. Maybe with my luck, and it's not like I've had a lot of good luck, maybe with my luck, I'm going to end up paralyzed from the neck down in some charity ward, and I'm in my 20s. I'll be there for 50 years, at least sober, can't get a drink, listening to my head tell me what a worthless piece of crap I am as members of AA parade their newcomers through the room, and I get to hear them say things like, well, this is what happens to you when you don't work on wonderful 12 steps. And I'm paralyzed. I can't even give them the one-finger salute. And that terrified me, and it prevented me from killing myself, because I'm afraid of that. That terrified me. Dying doesn't scare me. I tried to drink myself to death, as I'm sure other people in this room. Just resign yourself to that. I'm going to drink myself to death. You know what the problem with that is, That's why some of us think about offing ourselves. It takes a long time. It's like being kicked to death by rabbits. It just goes on and on and on and on. And by the time we do, if it finally does kill us, we've wished we were dead for a long time. Everybody that you loved, children, parents, romantic interests, everybody you ever cared about, by the time we die, they hate us. And it's a lonely, bitter way to go. And I got lucky. I came off that bridge, and through a bizarre series of circumstances ended up in a detox 2,000 miles away. I was running from the law, trying to get to California. I thought I could lose myself on the beach, and I ended up in Las Vegas. And I was introduced to some people that I could hear. I don't know why I couldn't hear the people in Pennsylvania. I couldn't hear them. I was too full of me. You know how that is. Some of you in here, there might be some of you in here this weekend that can't hear me because your internal stuff's too loud. I was too full of me to hear you. I couldn't hear you. I fit the old adage, you can always tell an alcoholic, you just can't tell him much. I'm that guy. And in 1978, in this detox, I had enough of me kicked out of me. I was so demoralized. I can't put into words how pathetic it is. Not only is your life crap, you feel like crap, you hate yourself, And I can't even kill myself. I mean, that's a level of pathetic beyond anything I could imagine. And I didn't know that made me ready for you. I was an alcoholic of the hopeless variety. And in that detox, I was introduced to some men and women, and one of the men would become my sponsor. And he started guiding me into a way of life that would change me dramatically. And I am here this weekend to share my experience with that. There was a guy over 2,000 years ago who died. And he came back. He was brought back from the dead. A guy named Lazarus. And he was so amazed. He was alive. He was amazed. And he said, what do I do? And somebody said, just go tell everybody what happened to you. And so I'm here to tell you what happened to me. And maybe it'll be useful to you. Maybe it won't. But if you don't identify with me, and not everybody does, you'll hear a speaker next week or next month that'll connect with you, because we have a wrench for every nut here. So it's okay. One of the hardest things for me to understand was this step one, that we were powerless over alcohol. I didn't know what that meant. And isn't it odd that the very foundation of my recovery, I sat in meetings for over a half dozen years and could admit I was an alcoholic. And I tell you something, I don't even know what I'm saying. What I'm really saying is I'm in a lot of trouble, and just don't confront me about anything. So I'm saying I'm an alcoholic, and I am, and there is alcohol in the picture, and okay. That's what I'm kind of saying. I'm kind of saying leave me alone, because as we go around, I ain't going to be the guy as you go around the room that doesn't say that and have the whole rest of the room look at you. I'm not going to be that guy. I'm that guy who says, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. But I didn't know what it was. And I thought it had something to do with an alcohol problem. And sometimes what was wrong with me kind of looked like that a little bit, and then other times it didn't. Other times it didn't at all. And I didn't know. And in chapter 3, when it talks about step 1, it says it differently than it says it up here. And I think that the way it says it in chapter 3 sets the stage for where this whole process is going to come about. It says we learned, which implies that it's not just like that. It's a process. And we learned we had to fully concede to our innermost selves. And my grand sponsor was a man named Chuck Chamberlain, and he used to say that this is an inside job. That's why cognizant approaches to recovery have been very uneventful. Because you got to learn it in here. And we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we're real alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. And there's a big difference for me about admitting that I'm powerless over alcohol. Because you put me in a group setting, I'll admit just about anything. Just don't bug me. There's a big difference between that and fully conceding to my innermost self. You know that place inside you where there's not a lot of chatter. There's another place inside you where you just kind of know stuff. It is. You don't have to talk. You don't have to have a conversation with yourself in your head about how, I probably have the DNA of an alcoholic. Nah, this is just, you get it. You're an alcoholic. And I could do the other up here, but I couldn't do this. And after that failed suicide attempt, and I finally became an alcoholic of the hopeless variety, I came into Alcoholics Anonymous to really learn here in the rooms what I am. Isn't it? I always thought it's odd that I could sit for years in trouble trying to examine myself and see what's wrong and never get it. Never see it. Because what I'm looking for, I'm looking with. And yet I come to meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous after exhaustive self-examination, even with the help of psychiatrists. And I'll sit there and I'll listen to some bag boy from a grocery store talking about their experience, and I will learn about me. As I sit there and you're talking about you, and I will see me in a way through your experience that I could never, ever see me by the most in-depth self-examination. And that is the beauty of Alcoholics Anonymous. I learned in these rooms. I found myself here. And to my amazement and joy, what I found I really like. But I learned about me through you. And in 1978, I started this deal. In our book, Silkworth talks about something I knew coming in the doors. That it's one aspect of what it is to be a real alcoholic, or as Silkworth refers to, a chronic alcoholic. And on the top of page X, and if you're using a 4th edition, it's XXX. If you're using the 3rd edition, it's one page off. I got sober on the 2nd edition, but I use the 4th because that's what the new guys use. Silkworth talks about something here that really explains me when I can step back from it and look at it. He says that guys like me, and I presume like you, that the action of alcohol on us, and he refers to us as chronic alcoholics. And I think that there are 2 different types. I've been in these rooms a lot of years, and I'm a daily member of AA. It means I still average 7-8 meetings a week. I've talked to a lot of people. I sponsor a lot of people, and I think there's 2 different types of alcoholics. And there has been since the beginning of time. There's been a type of person, and if you want to check this out, it talks about it in the book on page 20 and 21, but I'm not going to read it. There's been the type of person from the beginning of time who gets in a lot of trouble through drinking. And they drink abusively. And they'll come to their senses and realize they just can't drink. They can't take the first drink because they always go too far. And they get that, and they make up their mind to put the plug in the jug, and they might have a support system, like maybe their wife or husband. Maybe they join this church group, and the minister and everybody there knows, oh, he can't drink. So, it's cool, and they remind themselves, and they're good to go the rest of their life. They don't become weird when they quit drinking. Not outwardly weird, the secret squirmy kind of weird. The kind of weird that you don't want anybody to know the crazy stuff I'm thinking kind of weird. The kind of weird where you look around and nobody feels like you feel kind of weird. The kind of weird that when I stop drinking after a while, I just see very clearly what's wrong with everybody. That kind of weird. The kind of weird where you don't fit really. You pretend you do. Kind of weird where you wake up in the morning and you're afraid, and sometimes you don't even know what you're afraid of. You just wake up with a ball of anxiousness, a feeling and a sense as if there's going to be some crap happening today. I don't know what it is, but I better be prepared. So you're on high alert all day long. And if you're on high alert all day long, it's amazing how much bad stuff actually comes your way. You magnetize it. And I am that chronic alcoholic, and that's why I relapse continually and continually. I'm not the guy who has acute alcoholism, like an acute illness, like pneumonia is an acute illness. It'll kill you, but the physical stabilization of the condition is the end of the pneumonia. Acute alcoholism, the entering into abstinence is the solution. But chronic illnesses, the physical stabilization of the illnesses is but a beginning, like diabetes. Stabilizing the diabetic's blood sugar is but a beginning. Stabilizing my spirit, my physical, and ultimately, hopefully, my spiritual condition is but a beginning. Because I just deteriorate continually. And we'll get into that a little later, what that process is. So I am the guy Silkworth talks about. I'm the chronic alcoholic. And he says that the action of alcohol on guys like me, on chronic alcoholics, is a manifestation of an allergy. Well, I know about allergies. I got a mild allergy to cats. Even though I like cats, if I get around cats, if I'm even in a house that has cats and I don't know there's cats there, after about 40 minutes, my eyes start to water and run. I don't even have to know there's cats. I will feel the effects of this allergy. It's a phenomenon because most people don't react to cats like that. Just people that are allergic. Well, he says I have an allergy to alcohol, but what's the allergy? Well, I don't break out in runny nose or watery eyes. That may come later. I take a drink of alcohol and I break out in what he refers to as a phenomenon of craving. And he says something that is very, very astute. And he says it 3 or 4 times. That this phenomenon of a craving is limited to us as a class of people. And it never, ever, ever occurs in people other than chronic alcoholics. Later on, he says it's what differentiates us and sets us apart as a distinct entity. It is what makes me alcoholic. Dr. Silkworth was a brilliant psychiatrist who dedicated his whole life to working in a hospital for the treatment of drug addiction and alcoholism. And he looked for the litmus test. Because there'd be people that came in that had so many things they were abusing that they don't know what they are. And then there were some people who had chronic problems with various things, and when they stopped taking the stuff, they were okay. And then there was an individual that was heartbreaking, that would end up in his hospital over and over again, such as Bill Wilson, such as guys like me who time and time again we relapse. And one time I'll come back into the detox and I got DTs from drinking cheap wine. The next time I might come back and I got the tremors from Oxycontin. The next time I come back, I may be doing shots at tequila and cocaine. But the reality is I can't stop from starting. And these people have a terminal illness, guys like me, and we literally relapse ourselves to death over a period of hideous, painful, lonely, bleak years. And he in treating people like me, he wanted to know, what's the litmus test? And he found that people who have chronic alcoholism as a class have a reaction to alcohol that other people don't have. And I know there's a lot of young people here, and you probably, when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, most of the people that came in at that time, we also did a lot of other drugs. It was just part of being on the streets. And treatment centers were just starting to ask crazy questions, like questions that are very confusing. Like they'd say things to me like, well, what's your drug of choice? What do you got? I don't know. I drank vanilla extract a couple times in a pinch. In jail one time, I just broke open a magic marker and huffed it, just hoping something would happen. What they should have asked me is, Bob, what happens to you when you drink alcohol? What happens to you? What happens to you after about the second drink? Do you break out in an irresistible, the feeling from the alcohol starts to hit you? Do you break out in an irresistible yearning for more? More of what? Whatever I can get my hands on, just more. More of that feeling. And I've had that. Isn't it odd that I could have that reaction to alcohol all my life and not see it? This is the one disease, if you have it, it will use your own mind against you to keep you from ever seeing the picture. I think alcoholism has its own inherent survival mechanisms. It doesn't want you to get better. You know how you can tell that? Look at the resistance that wells up on you when it comes time to picking up the pen and writing the 4-step, or picking up the phone and calling your sponsor. We have a tremendous resistance. It's like this alcoholism doesn't want you to get better. And so I can't see. I'm driven by this, but I got a mind that justifies it. I don't think it's an allergy to alcohol. I don't think it's any of that. And then I was sitting in a meeting, probably 1976, I think. maybe 76, I think it's probably 76, in a treatment center, and a woman shared her experience about being in a dinner party. And when I heard her talk about her experience, it was like the light went on, and for the first time in my life, I could see something that had been present in me all along and I could never see. She was talking about this experience, and I remembered a thing that had happened to me in a similar deal where I was about 18 years old, and I was dating a girl, and she wanted me to meet her family. And, I'm trying to be a good guy, and I don't really like stuff like that. I've always been a little self-conscious anyway, always really concerned with and paranoid about what you think of me anyway, but I want to be a good guy. So we're going to spend the whole evening together with her family. I get there and I sit down at the dinner table, and they bring out a bottle of wine, not a big bottle of wine, a little wimpy Al-Anon kind of bottle of wine, not the kind of bottle of wine I'd have bought, a little tiny Blue Nun or some low alcohol stuff. I mean, I like that 20% stuff. This is like nothing. And they pour us all a glass. Now, at 18 years old, I swear to God, you could have put me on a lie detector and you could have said, Bob, is there any way in the world you could possibly have alcoholism? And I would have said, absolutely not. And I bet you it would have said I was telling the truth. Because I'm in my long-haired rock star, better living through chemistry phase of my alcoholism. But alcoholism doesn't care what you think. Alcoholism doesn't care if you use other drugs. If you have alcoholism, you have alcoholism. And I had alcoholism, even though I believed I didn't. And I sit at this dinner table, and they pour me a glass of wine, and I drank it pretty quickly. I always drank quickly. I think evaporation's a secret childhood issue with me or something. I drink quickly, fast, killed that glass, got a second glass out of that bottle of wine, killed that one pretty quick. They're all still sipping on that first glass of wine. The bottle's dead. I'm sitting there, and something started happening to me. It was kind of odd. It was like, the conversation at the dinner table, that was okay. It was kind of sort of all right. A couple minutes ago, started to become irritating and mundane and stupid, kind of. And I'm sitting there, and I get a little squirmy, and I wanted another glass of wine. There's no more. The bottle's sitting there. It's dead. I'm looking at it. I'm staring at it. Like maybe if you stared at it, it would fill up again or something. I don't know. I finally blurted out. I said, God, that was good wine. Do you have any more? They said no. They went back to talking about Vietnam and sports and all this crap. And I'm sitting there with 2 glasses of wine in me, and I think I'm going to lose my mind. You know how you talk to yourself in your head? It's getting a little panicky in here. And I finally blurted out. I said, I like beer. And they said, well, we don't have any beer, Bob. The next time you come over, we'll get you a 6-pack of beer. And they went back to talking. And I'm nuts. And I finally excused myself. I went to their bathroom, and I locked the door, and like a crazy person went through their cabinets. I found a bottle of cough medicine, full bottle of cough medicine, 35% alcohol, with codeine and turpentine hydrate, which is a bonus, and sat on the edge of that bathtub and chugged that bottle of cough medicine. And all that crazy spinning in my head just went, I was able to sit there, and I could focus and think straight. Came up with a plan. Went back out to that dinner table. I told them about something I'd forgotten about that I had to go take care of. I was very sorry. I had to leave, and I will do this again. And I went and got in my car out in front of their house, drove down their street 20, 25 miles an hour like you're supposed to. Turned the corner and drove to my friend Brett's house like a maniac. 80, 70, 85 miles an hour because he had a bar in his basement and some Thai stick. And that 2 glasses of wine set something off in me I could not control. Now, Silkworth says this is what differentiates us. I was the only guy at that dinner table with alcoholic. All those other people have been alcoholic. We'd all been in that bathroom going through those cabinets. But my reaction to alcohol has always been that way. And yet, isn't it funny that you can't see it? Because I would avoid intuitively. I would avoid situations like that. If I would have walked into that dinner table and they said, if you'd like a glass of wine, you can only have 2 at the most, you're going to be here all night, I would have passed, right? I wouldn't have passed because I thought I was alcoholic. It'd just be like, 2, that's it. What's the point? I mean, I wouldn't have passed because I thought I was alcoholic. And so I avoided situations like that, as I think most of us do, where you're trapped. You've had 2 or 3 drinks and you're trapped and you can't get any more. So it's hard for guys like me to see something that's present all the time. Because like all cravings, you don't realize you're in the grip of it until you can't satisfy it. Everyone in this room and this moment is in the grip of a craving you're not aware of, and that's the craving to breathe air. But if someone were behind you were to put a plastic bag over your head, you'd instantly realize you have a craving to breathe air because you can no longer satisfy it. And it is only in those moments that I can really see what has been hidden from me because I satisfied it for years. Well, Silkworth goes on to say, these allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. Anything that does that thing to me or for me, that lights me up, that sets me free, that does that thing to my spirit, I think anything that'll do that for me will do that to me, where I can't get enough. Some things are slower, some things are quick. Alcohol's quick. He says they can never safely use alcohol in any form at all, and once having found the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. And that, in and of itself, is not only a problem, but it deviates us from the truth. I think, I know for years I would get sober with such horrific wreckage in my life that I've caused when I was drinking that I can't see past the wreckage to what's really killing me. And you come into Alcoholics Anonymous and people are saying, well, your problem's alcohol. Yeah, okay, but my God, I got police problems, I got court problems, I got employment problems, I got wacky emotional problems, I got crazy mental problems, if you knew, I got relationship problems, I got health problems, I don't feel very good, I got all kinds of problems. And what happens is I don't see what's really killing me, and I start attacking the symptoms of the disease and never touch what's behind it. And so guys like me relapse again. And that's not that I haven't made an effort not to drink. My sponsor said, I heard him say this 30 years ago, he said, any plan for the chronic alcoholic who proposes that you just quit drinking and try to clean up your act is doomed to failure. It's not enough because I'm treating the symptoms and I'm not getting down to the cause and conditions and the real nature in here. And the great promise in Alcoholics Anonymous, the reality of AA, is a promise that it talks about right in the middle of step 4. It says, when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. So, I'm in psychiatrist after psychiatrist, and it doesn't help. Isn't it odd that when I start working the spiritual program of recovery, my mental health stuff clears up? I haven't been clinically depressed in almost 34 years. I haven't been any of that. And physically, we straighten up. So the real crux of the problem is that when I stop drinking, my spirit, my very chi, my life force, some people would call it your soul, it seems to withdraw from life and get sick. And it fills up with me until it ain't no good. And Silkworth starts to talk about this. This is the first place in the book where we get any inclination, what's wrong with me? Why time and time and time again, I swear to myself, I'm never going to touch that again. And I ain't going to do that stuff either. I'm not doing nothing. And I always go back to it. The bottom of the page, in the last paragraph, Silky says that men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. That is true for everybody. That's not just alcoholics. My sister is not an alcoholic, and she drinks for the effect, but she just likes a tiny little bit of it. because she gets a little more than about 2 drinks and she, So it's inconceivable to her to get knee-walking crybaby drunk. I mean, she just won't go there. The idea of drinking till you throw up is just horrendous. That's like horrendous to her. To us, it's a way of life sometimes. I mean, she gets a feeling when she drinks, even though she likes a little of the effect, too much of it, and she gets a feeling like she's losing control. I get a feeling like, I'm gaining control. I get a feeling like maybe with the next drink, everything that's not complete within me will become complete. I get a feeling like all my vacancies and insecurities and everything that's not secretly not right with me is about to become right. And so I drink because I drink with a passion. I drink what feels like approaching wholeness. Now to the outside world, it looks like I'm falling down, but in here, it's like it's good. It's good in here. So we drink. All people do that, and Silkworth says the sensation is so elusive that while we admit that it is injurious, and we all do that. I bet you everybody in this room, before maybe a year or two before you got sober, were either in your bathroom throwing up or sitting in a bar in the morning thinking to yourself, man, I gotta quit this. I'm losing, my life's just running between my fingers here. I'm staying on a guy's couch. There's guys I went to high school with, both own homes and stuff. We know, we're not stupid. We get that. We admit this is we're ruining ourselves with this stuff. But then after a time, Silky says we can't differentiate the true from the false. To us, our alcoholic life will seem the only normal one. Well, he says a lot there. I had a big secret, and the secret didn't make sense even to me. That's why I sometimes even couldn't look at it, let alone tell you. And the secret is that even in the face of the arrests and the broken hearts and the horrible things I did to the people that loved me, and to the ruined opportunities, the Ivy League colleges that I flunked out of, that I was given opportunities beyond anything I could imagine, the destroyed life, even in the face of all of that, and how rummied I got and sick I got, I still liked myself better when I was drunk than I ever liked myself when I was sober. I felt more complete and more normal when I was half lit up than I ever felt on the natch. And that doesn't even make sense to me. And I can't tell you that. I can't even tell me that, because it doesn't even make sense. And I'm sure that I'm not unlike some of you. You know, by the time you get to Alcoholics Anonymous, if you're anything like me, chances are there have been some people getting in your face talking to you about you. Maybe your mother and father have had a conversation or two along the way with you about you. Maybe your kids, maybe your siblings, maybe your boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, maybe your therapist, maybe your priest, maybe your PO. You get really bad, maybe your drug dealers had a conversation with you about you. Maybe your bartender. You get really bad, strangers on the street are going to start talking to you about you. And they all say the same thing, don't they? I mean, it's all different words, different angles of approach, but they're pretty much coming up to me and they're saying, Bob, you're really screwed up. And you catch me on a bad day when my defense mechanisms are down, I'm demoralized, I'll probably go along, oh yeah, I know. You know why you're screwed up? God, I've been all these years in therapy. No, I don't. I really don't. I don't. Well, you're screwed up because you keep getting screwed up. If you didn't keep getting screwed up, you wouldn't be so screwed up. So I'm pretty screwed up. I think, okay, I won't get screwed up. And when I don't get screwed up, I get so screwed up, I got to go get screwed up. And somebody gets in my face and says, you're screwed up. And I go, yeah, I know. Why are you screwed? Because I get screwed. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me because I'm focusing on the symptoms and I can't see what's really wrong. I can't see what's really wrong. And here's the first place that Silkworth sort of drops a piece of the puzzle. He says, he's talking about me, and I presume you, if you're a chronic alcoholic, once you've quit drinking, he says that we are restless, we are irritable, and we are discontented unless I can again experience that sense of ease and comfort, which I had once found in taking a few drinks. Drinks which I'll see the guys I work with, the people, everybody taking with impunity they don't ruin their life. And what happens is I'll succumb to Silky says it, we succumb to the desire again, as so many of us do. And the phenomenon of craving develops, and I'll pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful, with a sincere, I really mean it this time, desire not to drink again. And Silky says it's repeated over and over and over. So for all practical purposes, my alcoholism really starts where the bottle ends. And my inability to see that almost killed me. Because I kept thinking alcohol was the problem. But if alcohol was the problem, you're not a chronic alcoholic. You have an alcohol problem. If you're not a chronic alcoholic and you have an alcohol problem, I got a one-step program of recovery. It'll change your life. Don't drink. Do that Nancy Reagan, just say no thing, And I think most of us say no. We can say no. I can say no a lot. People, never gonna drink again. No, and I ain't smoking nothing. No. I'm telling you, no. Listen, I am grateful to be sober. No, I go to meetings. No. Okay, one. And if you're a chronic alcoholic, eventually, sometimes it takes 10 years. Eventually, there's a yes in every barrel of nose. I've watched men and women who get dry and throw themselves at the fellowship, and nothing changes in here, and they'll stay sober for 10, 15, 20 years, and then drink again or blow their brains out. Because alcoholism really chronic alcoholism starts where the bottle ends. And I couldn't understand what was so wrong with me. And it was one of the points where I thought that I didn't belong in AA. That's why I sought out so many of the great psychiatrists on this planet. Because I'd go to AA meetings, and what I would observe in the meetings, seemingly to me, was people who had an alcohol problem. They realized they had a problem. They got it. They came to their senses. They put the plug in the jug. They made up their mind they weren't going to drink. And they used to say that all the time. Just don't drink no matter what. And they went to meetings to remind them that they shouldn't drink and to fill up the social void that used to be filled by going to parties and bars. And I come to meetings and I listen to you and I watch you. And in short order, I know that you're nice people. But for God's sakes, whatever's wrong with me is not the same thing that's wrong with you. Because I quit drinking, and I'm going to your meetings, and I ain't about any what you're talking about here. Abstinence feels like I'm doing time. I get so depressed. What happens to me is I worry. I get this mind that just worries about stuff. I can't shut it off. I can't find the off switch. It won't shut down. And sober, it just worries. I am continually seeing problems in the future that I need to solve today. I'm continually trying to clear up the wreckage of my future. I'm always somewhere angst about something. I'm the guy who just walks into rooms full of people and just starts imagining that you're thinking things about me. Just little things. I just angst up until I'm so full of anxiety. It feels almost like a nervous breakdown. And then I just implode into a deep, deep depression. And I did that, and I did that, and I did that. And I would drink again. And I drink again because of that. And I go to meetings and you guys are, you just don't drink no matter what, Bob. Yeah, I know. And I know what it's like to swear to myself and mean it and go back to it again. And I didn't know that what happens to me, and because I'm not just that I'm self-centered. The book says I'm an extreme example of self-will run right, though I usually don't think so, do I? No, I don't. Not me. You are. You're extreme example, not me. I'm not. Because I'm so extremely self-involved, what happens is I cook myself in my own emotional juices. Because I'm so up in here cooking on me and my thoughts and fears and anxieties and problems that I imagine. I'm the guy who has conversations in my head with people that aren't in the room. I drive in my car. I have whiteouts where I'll drive all the way across town. I can't remember one thing on it because I'm having conversations in the car with people that aren't in the car, right? I'm a crazy person. And it cooks me day in, day out, week in, week out. And some people don't like this example, but I love it. Alcoholism does to me, it cooks me the way you boil a frog. Now, if you ever had a biology class, I'll tell you it's very hard to boil a frog. They have the most intensely strong rear legs that if you take a pot of boiling water like this and you throw a frog in, it'll get burnt, scalded really bad, but it'll get out of that pot. So the only way to boil a frog effectively is you set it in a lukewarm room temperature water, and it'll just kind of settle into that water, and you just turn it up very, very slowly. And if you turn it up slowly enough, the frog never realizes it's being boiled alive. And it'll never jump out of the pot. And I think that's exactly what happens to us. I've been going into a Skid Row detox twice a week for 3 decades. And there's not a week that goes by I don't see someone in there who at one time had been a prominent, active, solid member of AA, sober over 10 years and drank again. We had one guy, 45 years, and he drank again. He's dead. He died within 6 months. And you ask them the question, did a week before you picked up the first drink and literally burnt your life to the ground, did you know? They didn't know. If the frog knew, it would jump out of the pot. They don't know. If you knew, those of you who relapsed again, if a couple weeks before you drove yourself to the point where you're thinking about offing yourself, where you hate yourself so much, before you ruin and break the hearts of everyone who ever loved you, a week before you start that journey, if you knew you were going to start that journey, you'd do so. You'd call a sponsor, you'd go to them, you'd do something. But you don't know. The frog doesn't know it's being boiled alive, and neither do we. That's why Alcoholics Anonymous we treat a spiritual condition. This is not crisis. This is not emotional and spiritual crisis management here. Because by the time you get to the point you need that, it's kind of too late. It's kind of too late. That's the philosophy. You know, they say crazy things in treatment centers. They'll tell you things like, well, when you get out of here, if the obsession to drink returns, you're thinking about drinking, call somebody. Let me tell you something. By the time that's on you, it's too late. You ain't calling anybody. What do I want to talk to those people in AA? It'll slow me down. You know, I ain't going to call anybody. That's the philosophy of a guy who says to himself, I just got this car, but I'm not going to put any oil until the engine seizes up first. I mean, it's crazy. So we try to treat a condition that keeps us in good stead so that we never get to that point. See, I can't fight the obsession to drink. I did for all those years, and I tell you, I fought the battle with everything in me. I had support groups, I had girlfriends trying to help me to stay sober, I had a family that tried to help me stay sober. If a human power could do it, I'm telling you, it would have been done. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I came into Alcoholics Anonymous in 78. One of the first speakers I heard said something that it was so funny, but it was so true. I almost fell out of my chair laughing because it was so right on. He said, well, I seriously quit drinking over 50 times. He said, every time I quit drinking, I got drunker than hell. He said, that quitting drinking was killing me. And I'm howling. I'm thinking, exactly. And yet I stand here, 33 and a half years almost of absolute, uninterrupted, consistent, continual abstinence. And I haven't fought the bottle. Not once. I can't win in that arena. I can't. That's what it is to be powerless. I can't win in that arena. And yet, every single day of my life, I fight something else. I fight a spiritual malady called alcoholism, a propensity to obsessive self-involvement, a propensity and inclination to play God, to put myself in conflict and separation from others because I become restless. And you're slowing me down here. The waitress, do you ever notice when you're hungry how the waitress is they get in the back and they go, Bob's hungry. Let's really take a long time. Irritable. I just start noticing what's wrong with people. Because I'm restless, I want to tell them. I got to tell them. Well, they need to know. They need to know what's wrong with them. And abstinence becomes a lonely business. Matter of fact, you can measure how sick I am spiritually and how much I'm playing God by the amount of judgments and opinions in my life. I'm telling you. And it doesn't matter if you're sober 50 years. My sponsor, he gets that way from it periodically because of the chronic nature of the condition. So, I have to stop the cooking of the frog. That's my only hope here. And what do you do if you have a natural, if it's automatic default with you? It's, here's the kind of, I would go to therapy and I'd have these amazing epiphany experiences. I'd go and get born again, and I'd get saved, and I'd have an amazing experience. And it would always wear off, just like William James talks about. Always the old personality, Harry Tiebout talked about, the old personality will reasserts itself. Because no matter what kind of experience I have, it's like the back of a toilet tank. You flush it, it empties right out, and then I just start filling up with me again. You know what I mean? It's not because I'm a bad guy. It's just automatic. And unless I develop a way of life, and step 10, 11, and 12, and before I can even do that with any kind of effectiveness, I have to clear out a whole bunch of me between me and God and between me and you. It's my only hope. What do I want here? I want the same thing I wanted when I drank. I want to be lit up. I want to be free. I want to be out here where I can come out and play with people. I want everything out of Alcoholics Anonymous that I got out of drinking when drinking was spectacular in the early days. I didn't like my whiskey watered. I didn't like my drugs stepped on. When I went to a party, I wanted it all. Do you know, you go to some of you might have this experience. You ever go to a party like in your teenage years, even early 20s, you walk into a party, somebody's house, and living room is a keg of beer, playing music, some people dancing. You go have a couple beers, and after a while, it's like, this ain't enough. I'm going out and get a pint of whiskey or some tequila or something, and I leave. Well, I don't know that there are people going upstairs into these various rooms. In some of those rooms, you walk in, when you find out about the other rooms, you go in some of those rooms. Man, you go in some rooms, people doing shots and beers. Some people smoking stuff. Some people man, some people are snorting some kind of white powder off of naked body parts and stuff. I'm going to come back to that room. I mean, there's all kinds of rooms. And I don't know about you. I want it all. I want it all. I never went to a party where somebody's doing something and go, no thanks. No, tequila? I don't think I'd like tequila. It's foreign. No, I want it all, man. I want it all. I want it all. And I want it all here. And it's the same thing. When I started to understand that Alcoholics Anonymous was designed to do for me what I found in getting high with alcohol, man, I'm all in here. I'm all in. Let's take a 7-minute break.